Hey guys, today I wanted to go back to the basics and talk about film photography, but specifically regarding 35mm film cameras. And I do want to preface everything by saying that these are just very general, very basic things that I've learned, and I'm not, even though I've been shooting for, I would say, film photography for about 5 years now, which is not that long. I would still not even consider myself an expert by any means, so I just wanted to go ahead and say that. Now, I know these past few years, film photography has really exploded in popularity. I don't really know the reasons why, but I assume that one of the biggest reasons has to do with just nostalgia, and probably the first type of film that most people will start shooting when they get into it is 35mm film, which is kind of like the standard, the go-to film. There's other sizes such as medium format, which has way more detail. It's a bigger size film negative, and there's even a bigger one than that, which is called a large format. Now, the biggest thing we have to decide on when you get into 35mm film, or just film photography in general, is picking the right camera for you. Now, there's three basic types of cameras. There's point and shoot, which I have here. My go-to point and shoot camera, which I have been using a lot of, is the Ricoh R1S. And generally speaking, point and shoots are for if you just want something to shoot really quickly. You're the type who always just never really want to miss a moment and is kind of it's discreet. You can carry it around with you, and by definition it's literally you point and shoot, and generally speaking the camera will do all the calculating, the shutter speed, the light, and all that for you, so you don't really have to worry about anything, and it's perfect if you never want to miss a moment and capture something instantaneously. Now, the last two types of film cameras is an SLR, which is probably, if I had to guess, the most popular, and then there's a rangefinder. So starting with an SLR, I have here my trusted Pentax K1000. Now, an SLR, you're definitely going to be more intentional with your work, because you have to adjust everything. You have to set your shutter speed, you have to set your aperture. And a big perk of SLRs, especially with this K1000 here, is that it's fully mechanical. The only thing that you really need a battery for is a light meter, the internal light meter in the camera. But even if you don't have that, you can still shoot the camera. It'll still function like normal, because like I said, everything is mechanical. It's just if you do want to use that light meter, then that's obviously where the battery is needed. Now, the rangefinder is a camera that I'm not familiar with. It's a type where you have to it's in the name, you're trying to find the range, but you're not looking at the scene through the lens itself. You're looking at it through the actual viewfinder. So I would say there's perks and there's cons of this type of camera. Usually people who do street photography, it's a popular camera that they use, because once you master finding the focus using the rangefinder, it's quicker, and definitely know how to focus certain scenes better. But again, I've never shot a rangefinder. I would definitely like to learn one day. So yeah, that is the third type of a film camera. Now, once you decide on your film camera, now you have to choose the type of film that you want to use. And there's so many different kinds, but at the end of the day, there's three types of film, which is color negative, color positive, and black and white. The most popular being color negative film, such as Portra 400, Kodak Gold, and stuff like that. Now, I won't get into too many details regarding which film you should use, because that is very subjective. It depends which look you're going for. It's kind of asking like, which edit do you like on a digital photo? And that just depends on what you like. So it's hard to choose from that perspective. But I will say, when you're choosing a film, the most important part is the ISO, or the film speed that the film is showing, so such as Portra 400 or a Cinestill 800 or an Ektar 100. So those numbers are, again, that is the speed of the film. So usually if you're shooting in low light, you want that number to be higher, such as a Portra 800. If you're shooting in very, very bright light, you want to shoot something like a 100 speed film. Now that brings me to light meters. Now I say the best option is an external light meter, and if you don't have one of those, you can always download apps. They're pretty reliable. You know, I have used apps before for metering the light when I take a photo, and I would say that the general rule is if you're kind of unsure, definitely always overexpose, because film loves to be overexposed rather than underexposed. It's the opposite of digital photography, whereas if you overexpose a digital photo, it's very hard to bring back all the details in post. You want to underexpose it and then you can brighten the photo and you still have details. So regarding film, it's the opposite. You want to overexpose it, because if you underexpose it, it'll just be completely dark in the negative, and it's very, very hard to bring back the details even if you edit your film photos. Now, for those of you who are trying to get into film and kind of debating, you might be asking like, oh, what are some perks of shooting film? And in my opinion, probably the biggest one, especially if you're shooting an SLR type film camera, is it is the best way, in my opinion, to learn photography, just generally speaking, because you really learn about light, you really learn about shutter speed and all that, and the aperture. Not saying you can't do that with digital, but I feel like because film photography, if you don't get it right, and not that you have to get it right the first time, but if you don't get every setting right, your photo will not be properly exposed. Whereas in digital, you tend not to care too much about it and learn what settings you're using, because you can take as many photos as you want. Whereas the more you shoot film, you tend to kind of put into your head, okay, with this type of light, this shutter speed is good with this type of ISO film. You definitely tend to think about that more, because you don't really have the image there shown to you as soon as you take the photo. Another reason why I enjoy shooting film is, quite honestly, just the film look of it. And I know nowadays a lot of people try to duplicate that look, myself included. I'm not hating on it, I definitely do it, even tried to get that look with my digital photos, but something about film itself, even with the best edits, is really hard to replicate. And I think it has something to do with the dynamic range of most film, and also it's hard to make the imperfections. It's hard to bring in like fake grain. Even like fake grain, it doesn't really look like film grain, in my opinion. It's very hard to replicate, and I'm not saying it's impossible, but if you can just shoot film and instantly get that look, that is definitely one thing that I do enjoy about it. And even the imperfections of it, like I said, the grain, like some light leak, obviously if it's not just ruining the photo completely, stuff like that, the little imperfections of it, it just really gives it a unique look. And I think lastly, it's just every now and then you just want a break from digital, especially because more and more so we're just living in a more digitized world. And I'm not here to hate on digital photography. I definitely enjoy it. There's definitely times where it's necessary versus film. It just makes more sense. So I'm not here to bash on it by any means. But every now and then, if you just want to slow down, you want a different look, you want a more tactile approach to photography, it's definitely a good learning curve. It's definitely like therapeutic for me. And I feel like even 5 years in, there's so much more to learn about it. And like I said, every day I'm just learning. So thanks for watching this short one. I just kind of wanted to give you the basics of my experience with film photography, specifically 35mm. And I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and please subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.